Rob Lowe is one of the rare Hollywood stars who has managed to maintain both his fame and a steady career for more than 4 decades. Starting from his teenage roles in the famous Brat Pack movies like The Outsiders and St. Elmo's Fire, he quickly became an icon of the young actors of the 1980s, with his handsome looks and natural acting ability. After his early film career, Rob moved to television and left a deep impression with his role as Sam Seaborn in The West Wing, one of the highest-rated political series in America, earning him Emmy and Golden Globe nominations. Other small screen roles like Chris Traeger in Parks and Recreation or Owen Strand in 9-1 Lone Star further solidified his image as a versatile actor capable of being both humorous and profound. In addition, Rob Lowe also published his autobiography, Stories I Only Tell My Friends, which received positive reviews for its sincerity and subtle humor in recounting a life full of ups and downs. His film and television career has been recognized by a series of awards and nominations, among which the most prominent is multiple recognitions at the Emmy and Golden Globe Awards, along with honors for his role as a cultural icon of Hollywood. Rob Lowe's achievements lie not only in the number of films or programs he has participated in, but also in his ability to maintain a stable career, always loved by the public and highly regarded by critics through many decades. Besides that glory, Rob Lowe's personal life has gone through many pains that few people see. In his youth, he was rebellious and lost his way, facing alcohol addiction and media scandals that nearly caused his career to collapse, while also struggling to regain his reputation and image. The pressures of the profession and Hollywood's expectations once made him feel lonely, judged, and forced him to learn to live with constant anxiety and insecurity. Broken romantic relationships, family challenges, and mental health issues all put him in a position where he had to fight non-stop. However, Rob Lowe did not give in. Thanks to his extraordinary willpower, persistence, and self-rescue determination, he gradually overcame addiction, mended relationships, rebuilt his image, and maintained a steady career. It is precisely this ability to stand up after failure, to face pain and setbacks that created a strong, resilient Rob Lowe, both a Hollywood icon and a living testament to an unyielding will and spirit in the face of adversity. Before continuing, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the story of Rob Lowe's life full of ups and downs and extraordinary willpower. Please leave a comment or a heart as a way to honor the journey of overcoming setbacks and the pains that have forged the man he is today. Rob Lowe was born in 1964 in Charlottesville, Virginia, into a middle-class family that from the outside seemed stable, but inside was filled with pressures that the young boy had not yet fully understood. Rob's father was strict, always setting high standards for behavior and achievement, while his mother was caring but often distant, unable to show the constant warmth that a child always needs. Rob's older brother, with his strong personality and different orientation, also unintentionally became a role model that both inspired him and made him feel pressured to prove himself. From the smallest things in school to expectations about behavior and the future, Rob's teenage years were therefore not just a time to play, but a long series of days under pressure from studying, supervision, and silent loneliness, when he often felt like he was standing outside everything, watching his friends around him playing and enjoying childhood, while he had to try hard at school and find a way to survive in a competitive and harsh environment. Those days, Rob learned to be resilient, learned to hide his loneliness, learned to observe and listen to clearly understand that in this world, only what he could prove would be recognized by others. He soon realized that he had to find his own path to survive and assert himself, that only effort and talent could open opportunities for a boy who was often underestimated. In those quiet moments, when everyone was sound asleep or busy with their own lives, Rob told himself that he had to find something that made his heart stir, a passion that no one could take away, a place where he could be himself And it was in those moments that Rob Lowe began to realize his passion for acting and art, a deep desire to tell stories, to stand on stage or in front of the camera, and to create a world that he could control and feel. He dreamed of big roles, emotional film scenes, where laughter, pain, and everyday moments could all be conveyed through himself. That aspiration became the guiding light in his lonely and pressured teenage days, the place where he found comfort amid invisible criticisms, disappointments, and feelings of inferiority for not meeting his family's expectations. Rob Lowe began to practice his observation skills, memorizing expressions, learning to express emotions through every gesture, every glance, every small smile. He realized that acting was not just transforming into a character, but also a way to understand people and the world around him. In those quiet hours when he sat in front of the mirror, practicing how to speak, how to walk, how to control his voice and expressions, his heart was filled with the desire to be seen, to be loved, to shine on screen, and more importantly, to live with his true self. Those small steps, those moments of self-learning and training, gradually transformed Rob Lowe from a lonely boy under pressure and fear into a teenager who knew how to use resilience and passion to compensate for the shortcomings in his childhood, and sowed the seeds for a later film and television career, where his name would become an icon, but at the same time still carried all the pain, loneliness, and resilient will from those challenging childhood days. Rob Lowe entered the film world while still a teenager, carrying in his heart the desire to prove himself after years of childhood full of pressure and loneliness. His first casting did not go as expected. He was bluntly rejected, standing in front of a cold selection panel where every look scrutinized him and every question challenged his ability and courage. The feeling of being eliminated was not simply a professional failure, but struck directly at his self-esteem, forcing young Rob to confront a deep-seated fear that all his efforts would be meaningless and his dream would vanish. That scene, with the glaring lights, the stern seats, the cold comments from the judges, made his heart beat fast and his mind spin. Everything around seemed to emphasize that this world leaves no room for the weak, and only those who are tough enough can survive. The mental pressure increased as Rob watched his peers of the same age, those who appeared confident with natural performances, easily winning favor, while he had to struggle with his own confusion and incomplete skills. The media at that time did not overlook it either. Any role announced or rejected was scrutinized and commented on, making him deeply aware that any mistake could become a stain on his still long career path ahead. But it was precisely this first failure that became the catalyst for Rob's determination. He began to focus on honing his acting skills, not just memorizing lines or getting into character, but also observing every movement of the body, every smallest facial expression, and the way to emphasize emotions to make the story come alive. Rob spent hours in front of the mirror, experimenting with his voice, eyes, and gestures, trying to turn every expression into a storytelling tool, every moment on his face a message to the audience. In addition, he also realized that physical fitness was no less important, because roles required energy, flexibility, and endurance. Rob began training his body, exercising, running, doing balance and reflex exercises, transforming himself from a skinny teenager into someone with the health and physique suitable for the screen. Each training session was a psychological challenge. Rob had to fight with himself, with the fear of failure, with feelings of inferiority and constant pressure from the surrounding environment. Those times standing in front of the mirror, he clearly felt anxiety and fear creeping in, as if every opportunity was hanging in the balance and ready to slip away at any moment. But at the same time, those moments also strengthened his willpower. Every effort, every repetition, every time stepping into a casting, even knowing the chance of rejection was still high, gradually trained Rob's will to become more resilient and persistent. He learned that failure was not the end, but a stepping stone to perfecting himself, that each rejection was a lesson to prepare better for the next opportunity. Those first months in Hollywood's harsh environment shaped a special character in Rob Lowe, the ability to withstand pressure, to persist through failure, and to seize opportunities when they truly appeared. Each time he walked out of the casting room with disappointment still clear on his face, he told himself that he would not give up, that the sweat, the loneliness, and the pain would not be meaningless. The feeling of anxiety and fear gradually turned into motivation. Each pain became fuel for growth, each pressure became a vital lesson. Through those experiences, Rob Lowe not only learned how to become an actor, but also learned how to face himself, training his will and determination, qualities that would follow him throughout his career, helping him overcome scandals, failures, and personal upheavals in the years that followed, turning Rob Lowe into a symbol of willpower and the ability to overcome adversity right from his first steps into the film world. Rob Lowe entered the 1980s with the image of a teenager full of potential, but was immediately thrown into the glamorous and harsh world of Hollywood. When he joined famous teen movies like The Outsiders, St. Etienne, Elmo's Fire, and About Last Night, he quickly became regarded as one of the representative faces of the Brat Pack group, the generation of young, handsome, talented, and promising actors. Fame came quickly and powerfully. The spotlight, press conferences, and public attention became an inseparable part of his daily life. But along with that glory, Rob Lowe also had to face great pressure from the media, with endless gossip and judgments about his appearance, style, and lifestyle as a teen star, making him feel scrutinized and more insecure than ever. Not long after, the days of youthful freedom and rebellion began to lead to scandals and controversies that the media blew out of proportion. One of the notable incidents was the scandal involving a personal video that was leaked, causing public attention to focus on his private life instead of his acting ability. Hollywood at that time was unforgiving, and Rob Lowe came very close to losing all his professional opportunities. His career was temporarily stalled when many directors and producers turned their backs. The fame he once celebrated now became a heavy burden, forcing him to face a deep sense of loneliness. Every time he appeared in public or attended events, he could feel the scrutinizing looks, sometimes contemptuous, and the feeling of shame overwhelmed his mind, making his on-screen successes dazzling but at the same time full of threat. In these months, Rob Lowe had to learn how to stand firm against harsh public opinion, to look back at himself and accept that fame not only brought joy but also a heavy responsibility. He began to realize that the image he built for the public was not only about the roles or the movies, but also about the way he lived, the way he behaved, and his personal decisions. Every action, every gesture, and every word was scrutinized, and even a small mistake could become fodder for the media. These early lessons taught him the true meaning of personal responsibility, the need to control himself, maintain his image, and consider the consequences before making any decision, not only for his career, but also for himself as a person. Rob Lowe's personal tragedy during this period was not only the external scandals, but also the deep internal struggles. He felt lonely even when standing in the middle of a crowd of fans, felt pain and shame with his own image, and every day had to remind himself that every look, every comment was a challenge he had to overcome. These feelings, along with pressure from the media and judgment from colleagues, created an environment where any mistake could become a personal disaster. Rob Lowe had to learn to be resilient, to endure mental pain, and to turn painful experiences into motivation to improve himself. In this process, he realized that fame and glory are fragile, but the way he faced them would determine his character and his future. Every time he was criticized, every time a scandal was exposed, he told himself he must train discipline, control his emotions, and learn to maintain self-respect. Rob Lowe began to understand that a star's career is not only based on acting talent, but also on how they manage their image, how they face challenges, and their deep self-awareness. Alongside the external upheavals, Rob Lowe also learned to see his own value, not only through the eyes of the public, but also through his ability to endure, through his will to save himself, and through the way he overcame crises. Every long night, telling himself that failure and shame were not the end, but an opportunity to grow, he formed a persistent willpower, a determination not to give up, even though he had to go through mental pain that few could imagine. This was exactly the period when he learned to balance between fame and private life, between professional pressure and inner self, between unrealistic expectations and self-respect. Lessons that would follow Rob Lowe throughout his life, helping him overcome scandals, crises, and lead to brilliant achievements later, making him a Hollywood icon not only for his talent, but also for his mental strength and extraordinary willpower. Those months and years in that competitive and harsh environment forged Rob Lowe into a man who was both calm and strong, who knew how to look straight at pain without yielding, who knew how to turn pressure into motivation, and from there gradually affirmed himself on screen, in television and film projects. The tragedies of youth, scandals, and pressure were no longer constraints, but became the foundation that formed a resilient, strong, and determined Rob Lowe, a person who would continue to stand firm against all challenges in the following decades of his life and career. In the early 1990s, when the glory of the Brat Pack began to fade, Rob Lowe entered a period full of confusion and challenges, where both his career and personal life were threatened. The roles that once promised to continue developing his career were suddenly cancelled or postponed indefinitely. The projects he poured his heart into ended in disappointment, creating a deep feeling of abandonment. During that time, the mental pressure from having to maintain a perfect image in front of the media and audience, along with the constant scrutiny of the public, became an invisible burden that Rob had to carry every day. The feeling of loneliness, disappointment, and anxiety grew higher, making him easily fall into the temptations of fame, the traps of a hedonistic lifestyle, and stimulants. Alcohol addiction became part of the tragedy in this period. Rob Lowe once confessed that sometimes he turned to alcohol to soothe his loneliness, to forget the criticisms, disappointments, and mental pain he was enduring. The parties, the gossip, and even the superficial attention from fans sometimes increased the pressure, making it harder for him to distinguish between fake joy and his true self-worth. Every time he looked in the mirror, he realized that the famous, glamorous image the audience saw was just a shell hiding the instability inside. And this feeling made Rob Lowe question the true meaning of his career, the path he was on, and his real value beyond the glory and the spotlight. At the same time, the continuous failures at work, roles being cancelled or projects failing, forced him to face a feeling of despair. A role he had poured his heart and effort into could disappear after just a few days' notice from the producer. A project he invested a lot of effort into could fail for reasons beyond his control. These failures not only affected his career, but also threatened his self-esteem and belief in his own abilities. Every day that passed, Rob had to tell himself that he had to stand up, that his career did not end just because of a few stumbles, and that every failure was an opportunity to learn, to train persistence and willpower. Besides the external pressures, Rob Lowe also had to struggle with himself. The early fame and being noticed by all of Hollywood made him feel lonelier than ever. The joy of fame seemed always accompanied by mental stress and heavy responsibility. Wrong choices, complicated relationships, and days lost in a hedonistic lifestyle sometimes made him wonder if this path was really his, or just what society and the public expected from a star. It was in those moments of loneliness and despair that Rob Lowe began to reflect deeply on his true self-worth, on what was important in life beyond the spotlight, and on the path he wanted to continue in the future. These experiences, though painful and exhausting, gradually formed a special inner strength in Rob. He learned to control his emotions, learned to see failure not as the end, but as a stepping stone for growth. Every time he walked out of a casting session or received a project cancellation notice with disappointment on his face, he told himself he would not yield, that every failure was an opportunity to train his character. The struggle with external temptations, along with facing his inner self, helped him gradually form a strong will, a determination not to give up even though he had to go through much pain. In those days of being lost, Rob Lowe also began to realize the importance of balancing career and personal life. He understood that no matter how bright Hollywood's glory was, if he lost his self-worth and close relationships, his career would only be an empty shell. Awareness of personal responsibility and maintaining his image in front of the public became important lessons he learned right from this difficult period, and they were also the foundation that helped him recover after scandals and prepare for important steps later. Every night, Rob told himself that he had to find a way to stand firm, to learn to endure pressure and pain, to persistently practice and improve his acting skills. Every failure, every failed project, every criticism became motivation for him to train himself. He learned to turn pain, shame, and the feeling of abandonment into energy to move forward, to never surrender to difficulties. This was the period when Rob Lowe, though lost and full of wounds, formed extraordinary willpower, the ability to save himself, and a resilient spirit that would follow him for the rest of his career, helping him not only recover after his youthful scandals, but also become a lasting icon admired by the public and colleagues for many decades to come. All the challenges, pain, and confusion in this period became the foundation for Rob Lowe to learn to be more confident, to see his true self-worth correctly, and to determine his career path more maturely. He realized that fame does not always mean happiness, and only when he knew how to face pain and challenges could he build a sustainable career that was respected and live a truly worthwhile life, both as an artist and as a resilient human being. Family tragedy and personal relationships began to deeply affect Rob Lowe when he entered his adult years, a time when his career was gradually stabilizing. But the pressure from personal life became increasingly heavy. His marriage, although built on a foundation of love and long-term bond with Sheryl Berkoff, could not avoid tensions, misunderstandings, and prolonged challenges. In the early years of living together, differences in how they viewed work and how they prioritized time and in emotional needs sometimes led to conflicts, forcing Rob to face deep feelings of guilt and anxiety, especially when he realized that fame and his busy schedule had affected the relationship he deeply cherished. Not only his marriage, but other family relationships also presented challenges. From holiday occasions and family gatherings to everyday issues, Rob noticed that his career and fame sometimes made him distant from his loved ones. Small arguments could become tense when work, media attention, and professional responsibilities occupied his mind completely. He went through many sleepless nights wondering if he was losing something more important than his career, whether the Hollywood spotlight was truly worth the precious relationships he held. In moments like that, feelings of despair mixed with obsession about having to choose and balance, forcing Rob to look at himself and reevaluate his own value and what he truly wanted from life. To maintain both his career and romantic relationship at the same time, Rob Lowe was forced to learn how to manage his time and emotions precisely, to learn patience, to learn to see failure not as an end, but as an opportunity to improve. When conflicts arose, he no longer reacted impulsively like in his youth, but tried to observe, listen, and find ways to understand the other person. Long conversations with his wife, evenings discussing each other's expectations, emotions, and needs became the foundation for healing and strengthening the relationship. Rob learned that accepting responsibility for his own mistakes, acknowledging shortcomings, and trying to adjust his behavior was the way to maintain the sustainability of his marriage and close relationships. Besides that, Rob Lowe also had to learn how to face career failures without letting them negatively affect his personal life. Cancelled roles, failed projects, and criticism from colleagues or the public once made him waver. But he began to train his ability to control emotions, find ways to learn from each experience, and turn it into a lesson to move forward. This was not easy at all. Every time he received a role cancellation notice or read negative comments in the press, Rob had to face deep disappointment. But it was also the moment when his will and determination were tested. He learned to view failure objectively, to separate emotions from judgment, and step by step rebuild confidence in himself, not only in work but also in romantic relationships. The efforts to mend family relationships and improve himself made Rob go through many conflicting emotions. At times in despair, he felt helpless in the face of challenges that seemed too great. When his career demanded so much time, the pressure from Hollywood never stopped, while personal conflict still weighed heavily. At other times, he was filled with determination when he realized that every effort, every patience, and every act of tolerance could restore affection, build trust, and strengthen relationships. Rob gradually formed the habit of self-reflection, setting principles for himself, learning to balance professional responsibilities with responsibilities to his loved ones, and most importantly, learning to love and cherish himself. During this time, Rob Lowe also realized that family tragedies and personal pressures were not things that could be avoided, but necessary experiences to form character, patience, and the ability to overcome adversity. Every argument, every conflict, and every career failure became valuable lessons about managing emotions, facing pain, and nurturing important relationships. Those difficult days, though full of despair, helped Rob realize the true value of life: love, sincerity, determination, and an unyielding will in the face of challenges. It was during this period that Rob Lowe formed a special inner strength, combining professional determination with family responsibility. He learned to control his emotions, to face failure, and to turn mental pain into motivation to move forward. The lessons about patience, healing, and managing personal relationships along with resilience under professional pressure would follow him for the rest of his life, becoming the foundation for his later successes in film and television. Every time Rob looked back on these painful periods, he realized that it was precisely the despair and personal tragedies that had forged a resilient, strong, and profound Rob Lowe. A Hollywood icon not only because of his talent, but also because of his ability to overcome adversity and preserve his self-worth in every challenge. The decision to quit drinking became a major turning point in Rob Lowe's life, marking a new chapter where he had to face himself and the consequences of his years of being lost. After many years immersed in alcohol and youthful scandals, he realized that the old path was destroying both his career and personal life. And if he did not change immediately, everything he had worked hard to build would collapse completely. This decision was not simple at all, because alcohol was not just a habit, but had become a way for him to cope with loneliness, failure, and the fear of being forgotten. Every day was an internal battle, a struggle with old temptations, with memories of the temporary feelings alcohol brought, with memories of failures and the mental voids he once hid. Rob knew that if he wanted to save himself, he had to be completely serious, decisive, and uncompromising with himself, because any concession could send him back to the dangerous path. Quitting alcohol meant Rob had to face the feelings he once tried to avoid: loneliness, anxiety, guilt, and helplessness. In the first days, his body and mind resisted, sometimes making him almost despair. But at the same time, those difficulties also became challenges to train his willpower. Every time he overcame a craving for alcohol, every time he defeated temptation, Rob felt his inner strength growing, his self-confidence gradually returning, and he slowly realized that this ability to control and endure was the solid foundation for a long-term career and life. When entering the recovery phase, Rob also had to restart his career from the most basic steps. He could no longer rely on his youthful fame. Producers and directors still looked at him with caution, both curious and skeptical. Every role he received now was a precious opportunity, but also came with enormous pressure To prove that he was no longer the rebellious teenager, that he was worthy of the trust people gave, Rob had to relearn how to prepare for roles, how to control his voice, gestures, and eyes, while improving his acting skills to meet the strict standards of the film and television industry. Long days of training, learning lines, exercising his body, observing other actors, reviewing scenes, and learning from directors became an indispensable part of the journey to rebuild his career. Along with that, Rob also had to fight the fear of missing opportunities. He knew that age, old scandals, and the years of being lost could cause many chances to slip away without return. Every time he stood in front of a casting session or a tryout opportunity, fear appeared. Would he be convincing enough? Would others still believe in his talent? Would the past be brought up again and destroy the new effort? In those moments, his heart beat fast, his mind tense. But Rob did not allow fear to control his actions. He learned to control stress, focus on small steps, and turn worry into motivation to prepare the best for each opportunity. In that process, Rob Lowe formed a strict discipline and patience that he had never experienced before. Every day began with physical training, line practice, and serious self-evaluation. He learned to be patient with himself, to accept that not everything would be perfect immediately, that small failures were opportunities to learn and improve. Those years helped him train enduring character, the ability to withstand pressure, and a spirit that never gave up, even when facing failure, criticism, or pressures from the media and society. Emotions in the recovery phase were a mix of despair and determination. Rob clearly felt the pain of the past, regret for previous mistakes, and the fear that he might not be able to return. But alongside that, an intense determination formed. He would not let the years of being lost, the scandals, or the loneliness determine his fate. Every small step forward, every new role, every improvement in acting skills became proof of his resilient will and ability to save himself. The pains and failures of the past now became fuel for Rob Lowe to rise, to prove that no scandal, no mistake, or any period of being lost could defeat human will. The deeper he went into training and work, the more Rob realized the true value of perseverance. It was not fame, not glory or money, but the ability to stand firm, to learn from failures, and to maintain character in the face of challenges. Every time he overcame a craving for alcohol, every time he completed a difficult scene, every time he learned a new skill made him realize that persistence, willpower, and patience were the strongest foundation for a long life and career. During these months and days, Rob Lowe learned how to harmonize his personal life and career, knowing how to balance work pressure with family responsibilities and important relationships. He gradually restored his image, rebuilt trust from the public, colleagues, and himself. It was thanks to the decision to quit drinking and the journey of self-recovery that Rob Lowe not only returned to Hollywood with a stable position, but also created a new image of a resilient, confident person who knew how to take responsibility and learn to cherish what he had. This process, though full of challenges and pain, became the foundation for all of Rob Lowe's later achievements. From here, he was not only a talented actor, but also a living testament to the ability to overcome adversity, to learn from the past, and to turn pain and failure into inner strength. The patience, character, and persistent willpower he trained during this period would follow him for the rest of his career, helping Rob Lowe become a Hollywood icon who was both talented and profound, loved by audiences and admired by colleagues for his ability to face and overcome the challenges of life. After those years of being lost and the persistent battle with alcohol addiction, Rob Lowe began to reshape his career with a new determination and unprecedented steadfastness. He made a strong shift toward television, where the roles were challenging but also opened up opportunities for long-term development. His role as Sam Seaborn in The West Wing marked a major turning point. For the first time, Rob was recognized not just for his looks or youthful fame, but for his acting ability, emotional subtlety, and the way he portrayed the character authentically and vividly. This role not only demanded deep acting skills, but also challenged Rob in his ability to stick closely to complex political scripts, capture the fast rhythm, and maintain the balance between logic and emotion in every line of dialogue. Alongside The West Wing, Rob continued to participate in other film and television projects such as Brothers and Sisters, where he took on the role of a mature man with complicated family relationships. These projects were not easy. Every scene required thorough preparation, perfect immersion into the character, and the ability to coordinate with a cast of experienced actors. Pressure from the media also did not lessen. Every role was scrutinized, commented on, and evaluated, forcing Rob not only to prove his own abilities, but also to face negative comments that brought up his scandal-filled past. Feelings of disappointment and anxiety sometimes crept in when he wondered whether his effort and persistent determination would be enough to keep him standing firm in this harsh environment. Rob Lowe did not allow himself to collapse. He patiently practiced, learned every detail in the roles, studied every action, every expression, every intonation to make the character as vivid and authentic as possible. Every small failure, every scene that did not go as planned became a lesson, and Rob learned to turn pressure into motivation. He not only studied acting techniques but also trained his ability to endure mental pressure and public opinion, keeping his inner self steady in the face of criticism or comparisons with colleagues. In this process, Rob also had to confront his own past. The years of youthful scandals, the scandals that once damaged his image, and the mental pains that had never been fully resolved. There were times when he felt fearful and anxious that old mistakes would be exposed again, that every opportunity he was rebuilding could be destroyed by lingering memories. But these very difficulties trained him with an extraordinary will, knowing how to face himself, knowing how to accept himself, and remaining steadfast in his love for the profession, even through loneliness and pressure. Gradually, his non-stop efforts began to be recognized. The role of Sam Seaborn in The West Wing brought Rob Emmy and Golden Globe nominations, the first recognition for his recovery process and efforts to rebuild his career. Other television projects also helped him affirm the image of a mature, versatile, and deep actor, no longer just the handsome teen face as before. This recognition brought mental comfort, affirming that the difficult years were not meaningless and that persistent effort would eventually be rewarded. However, although recognized, Rob Lowe had not yet achieved complete stability. Television and film projects still demanded high concentration, a stressful schedule, and the ability to cope with continuous media pressure. Every new role was a challenge, and his career still could not separate itself from the past of being lost, scandals, and youthful pressures. Rob had to learn to maintain balance between responsibility to the roles, between work pressure and personal life, and between public expectations and his own self-respect and authenticity. Alongside his career, Rob Lowe also began to gain a deeper awareness of the value of family and personal relationships. He knew that in order to continue loving his profession and succeeding, he needed a solid foundation behind him, from love, trust, and support from loved ones. This balance became an important part of the process of reshaping his career, helping him maintain mental stability and face the next challenges without being dominated by negative pressure. Looking back on this period, it is clear that Rob Lowe had learned an important lesson. Fame and talent would only have value if the artist knew how to keep himself steady, knew how to train discipline, and knew how to face failures, pressures, and inner pain. The persistence, patience, and ability to save himself during this period were exactly the foundation for him to rise, open new opportunities, and transform himself from a teen actor with a scandalous past into a mature, reliable, and admired Hollywood icon. These years of reshaping his career, though full of pressure and challenges, helped Rob Lowe not only affirm his talent, but also prove his ability to endure and his inner strength. He learned to turn pressure and failure into motivation, learned to balance between work and personal life, and most importantly, learned to love his profession and cherish the opportunities given to him. This was the time when he began to reap more sustainable success, but still remained humble and clear-headed, not letting the initial glory or recognition cloud his reason and self-respect. The most important part of this period was Rob Lowe realizing that true stability and success did not come only from fame or money, but from the ability to face the past, overcome pain, and learn to adjust himself to become a better person, a resilient artist, and a reliable human being. The experiences, pressures, and failures of the past now became mental strength, helping him become steadier, more determined, and fully prepared for the next major projects in his film and television career, as well as for personal upheavals in the future. The 7-year relationship between Rob Lowe and Kelly Brook, the beautiful model with her own promising career, was once considered one of Hollywood's brightest romances. When they started dating, they were both young, full of desire, romance, and belief in the future. However, Rob's rapidly rising career became an invisible barrier, creating increasingly large cracks in their relationship. The long filming days, busy schedules, press conferences, and television or film projects demanded all of his mind and energy, leaving Rob with little time for Kelly. Even though his feelings remained deep, she had to sacrifice a lot, give up personal opportunities, and adjust her life to be ready to accompany him. But sometimes her efforts were still not enough to make up for the moments of absence that Rob's career brought. Gradually, feelings of abandonment and loneliness began to creep into Rob's mind. Even while standing at the peak of his career, with highly acclaimed roles and recognition from audiences and colleagues, he could not help feeling empty when he saw her by his side. While he himself was immersed in projects, schedules, and media pressure, Rob's successful career became a double-edged sword. It brought pride, but also created a mental distance from the person he loved. Those moments of loneliness, small reproaches, and empty evenings when Rob had to film or attend press conferences made him realize that affection also needed to be nurtured with presence, care, and time, not just words or fame. The conflict between affection and work became a harsh but necessary lesson. Rob had to learn to recognize that his career, no matter how important, could not become an excuse for abandoning loved ones. Every time he saw Kelly waiting in silence or having to give up something because of him, he felt tormented and pained, realizing that success on screen could not compensate for loneliness in private life. This conflict also forced Rob to face his own limits, that he could not give his all to everything at once, that maintaining a career and loving relationship was a challenge where every decision carried deep value. Throughout the 7-year relationship, Rob Lowe gradually realized the value of cherishing the person beside him, learning to balance between work and affection. He had to learn to truly dedicate time to his partner, to listen, understand, and care about the needs, dreams, and emotions of the person he loved. Fame and success did not always bring happiness. Sometimes they even became sources of conflict and hurt if not balanced with understanding and appreciation. Every difficult conversation, every argument, or every time he realized he had missed an important moment with his loved one, Rob learned a lesson about emotional responsibility and the importance of presence. Although the relationship with Kelly Brook ultimately could not last until the end, Rob Lowe still gained valuable lessons from this experience. He realized that to maintain a long-lasting and sustainable relationship, one needed to invest effort no less than building a career, needed to know how to listen and place the partner in an important position in life. The breakup, although painful, helped Rob realize the limits and true value of love, while also urging him to mature, to become more sensitive to the relationships around him. The feeling of loneliness and abandonment during this period was also a test for Rob to learn how to save himself, to learn to balance between professional pressure and mental needs. He realized that only when he stabilized his inner self could he maintain a healthy and meaningful relationship. This process taught Rob Lowe how to face pain, how to accept failure and love while still keeping his self-respect and resilient will. He learned to train himself, not to give up in the face of hurt, and to know that every decision, whether right or wrong, was an opportunity to grow and learn. The lessons from this relationship became an important foundation for Rob's later relationships. He understood that love, care, and presence were indispensable elements to maintain happiness with loved ones, and that career success would truly be complete when accompanied by stability and nurtured affection. Throughout this process, Rob Lowe also gradually learned to forgive himself, realizing that youthful mistakes did not define his entire life, and that the willpower to stand up, learn, and grow was the most important thing. Despite the pain, Rob Lowe continued to love his profession and make non-stop efforts. His career continued to develop, but now he had added maturity, patience, and a deep insight into the value of the relationships around him. From the pain and loneliness in his relationship with Kelly Brook, Rob learned how to balance career and affection, how to cherish the person beside him, and how to live with responsibility, honesty, and resilience, qualities that helped him stand firmer in every upcoming challenge and upheaval. These experiences in the 7-year relationship not only left painful memories, but also contributed to shaping Rob Lowe into a profound person who knew how to cherish the value of affection and family, while training his willpower to overcome every difficulty in life and career. It was precisely thanks to these tragic lessons that Rob Lowe was able to stand firm, continue developing his career, and build a more sustainable life afterward, becoming a Hollywood icon not only for his talent, but also for his ability to overcome adversity, learn from failure, and cherish the people beside him. Entering his 50s, Rob Lowe began to clearly feel the weight of time and the lasting consequences from his challenging youthful years. The once flexible muscles and abundant energy of his 20s and 30s gradually faded, and he had to face signs of fatigue, stress, and accumulated pressure after many decades of continuous work in the harshest industry in the world. The acting job, with its dense schedule, scenes demanding physical strength, and the need to maintain his image in front of the media and audience, became a daily physical and mental challenge. Every new role, every television or film project carried the pressure to be perfect, with no room for mistakes, not only for his personal fame, but also for responsibility toward the crew and audience. But age and signs of fatigue were only the external part of the challenge. Inside, Rob Lowe had to struggle with deeper mental upheavals. The fear of relapse stemming from his years of being lost in youthful scandals always simmered within him. Every professional pressure, every small failure, or even a long, tiring filming day could awaken old temptations, reminding him of his past addiction and the times he nearly lost control before. The feeling of helplessness sometimes appeared when he realized that his physical and mental energy was no longer as abundant as before. When looking back on the long period with so many challenges and realizing that every day he had to fight to keep himself steady, besides the temptations from the past, Rob Lowe also had to face constantly increasing professional pressure. The entertainment industry did not accept delays or mistakes. The roles demanded absolute focus. The television projects required him to demonstrate leadership ability, coordinate with the crew, and at the same time, maintain a positive image in the eyes of the public. Expectations from the audience, media, and colleagues made every passing day a mental challenge, where he had to balance between physical ability and creativity, between the need for rest and professional responsibility, between honesty with himself and the desire to perfect the role. In that situation, Rob Lowe found ways to maintain a healthy lifestyle and self-discipline. He built a strict daily routine, balancing physical training, diet, rest time, and acting practice. Every morning began with body training, running, yoga, and exercises to increase flexibility. Afternoons and evenings were devoted to reading scripts, practicing lines, learning expressions, and observing every small movement in the scenes. This discipline helped him maintain energy, control stress, and at the same time minimize the risk of relapse, keeping his mind alert to face professional and personal pressures. Rob Lowe's inner self during this period was a continuous struggle between the past and the present. He often recalled the years of scandals, the loneliness and disappointments he had experienced, the feeling of helplessness when facing public opinion and non-stop criticism. But those painful memories actually helped him form a special mental strength, the ability to self-adjust, restrain emotions, and turn pain into motivation to move forward. Rob learned to tell himself that the past could not be changed, but the present and future were still within his control, and maintaining discipline, a healthy lifestyle, and focus on work was the way for him to overcome every challenge. Each passing day, Rob Lowe continued to train himself, learning to view failure objectively while maintaining patience and determination. He realized that age was not a barrier if he knew how to manage his energy, take care of his body and mind, and train his ability to adapt and respond to unexpected situations at work. The long filming sessions, difficult scenes, and pressure from colleagues or audiences all became opportunities for Rob to strengthen his resilience and persistent spirit, turning every challenge into a step forward to perfect himself. Alongside work, Rob Lowe also did not forget to care for his personal relationships. He spent time caring for his family, staying in touch with and supporting his children, maintaining closeness with his wife, and learning to share pressures and difficulties with loved ones to reduce feelings of loneliness and helplessness. Balancing professional responsibility and family became an important lesson, helping Rob realize that inner strength came not only from success and discipline, but also from the ability to maintain sustainable relationships and awareness of the value of loved ones. It was thanks to the determination to maintain a healthy lifestyle, self-discipline, and persistent willpower that Rob Lowe overcame the challenging period of his 50s to 60s, reinforcing his career and personal life. These years, though full of fatigue, stress, and sometimes wavering in the face of pressure from the past, became a solid foundation, helping him step into bigger projects, receive more recognition, and most importantly, become a stronger, more stable, and deeper version of himself. Looking back, his 50s to 60s was the period when Rob Lowe had to fight not only with Hollywood's harsh environment, but also with himself, with a past full of wounds, temptations from old habits, and the fear of losing control. These challenges, though painful and difficult, were opportunities for him to train his willpower, form patience, and realize the true value of persistence and self-rescue. It was thanks to this process that Rob Lowe not only reaffirmed his career, but also built a solid image of a resilient, mature person who knew how to balance professional pressure and personal life, and was ready to face every challenge ahead with an unyielding spirit. After the years of facing age-related pressure, professional stress, and personal upheavals, Rob Lowe entered a more stable period in his career, where roles in television and film brought him sustainable recognition and a more balanced professional rhythm. His role as Chris Traeger in Parks and Recreation opened a new direction, helping him escape the image of the rebellious teenager from before, and prove that he could take on humorous yet profound roles, both graceful and emotionally rich, making audiences remember him not only for his looks, but also for his ability to portray characters vividly and authentically. Alongside that, other film and television projects continued to bring opportunities for Rob to showcase his diverse abilities, from leading roles in drama films to cameos in major projects, creating a steady stream of work that helped him affirm his solid position in the American entertainment industry. However, even in this stable period, Rob Lowe still had to face minor professional upheavals, from small scandals to criticism from the media or social media public opinion, a role that was poorly received, a project that was not warmly welcomed, or scrutinizing comments about his personal image still made him feel stressed and anxious. These pressures, although no longer as severe as in his youthful years, were still enough to remind Rob of his challenging past and warn that a Hollywood career was never something that could be considered completely secure. He learned to handle these situations with maturity, to view criticism objectively, to filter out constructive opinions to improve his skills and maintain his spirit, and at the same time to ignore unnecessary negative comments, creating for himself a balanced mental environment. Rob's emotions in this period were a mix of regret and sorrow, but they had been harmonized thanks to maturity and life experience. He felt regret for the youthful years he had lost his way, for the opportunities he had missed, but at the same time he knew how to cherish what he had, his current achievements, and the ability to maintain his career after so many upheavals. Every role, every successful project brought joy, but alongside that he still kept himself alert, understanding that glory was only the surface, and what mattered was how he practiced his profession and how he maintained steadfastness in the face of every challenge. Rob Lowe continued to train his persistence and willpower through each role. He realized that perseverance was not only about maintaining a long career, but also about the ability to learn non-stop, improve skills, and face new challenges with determination. Even when facing a busy schedule, media pressure, or negative comments, Rob still maintained a professional attitude, did not let emotions control his decisions, and always tried to perfect himself so that every role achieved completeness. Audiences and colleagues all saw in him a calm attitude, an inner endurance, and the ability to maintain consistent work quality in the ever-changing entertainment environment. These years also helped Rob Lowe learn how to balance career and personal life. He spent time caring for his family, accompanying his wife and children, building solid relationships, while still focusing completely on work. This balancing ability helped him maintain a stable career while still preserving his human values and happiness in private life. Every new project was a challenge, but also an opportunity for him to prove his abilities, and he stepped into every scene with confidence, calmness, and a professional spirit. Rob Lowe's feeling of sorrow did not only come from past failures or scandals, but also from the awareness that success and stability never came naturally. They always came with effort, patience, and the ability to endure pressure. However, maturity and experience helped him turn those emotions into motivation to work harder, train his character, and maintain his form. It was precisely this persistence, steadfastness, and iron will that helped Rob Lowe rebuild his image, affirm his position in the entertainment industry, and become a role model of willpower for younger generations of actors. In this period, Rob Lowe also learned how to face his past without letting it control the present. The years of scandals, being lost, and mental pressure were now viewed as important lessons that helped him train his ability to control emotions, maintain patience, and persistence in work. Every successful role, every compliment, every completed project brought satisfaction. But more importantly, they proved that Rob Lowe could stand firm after all the challenges that life and his career had presented, from youthful scandals, media pressure, to professional stress that lasted for many decades. These years were not only a period of career stability, but also the time when Rob Lowe achieved inner balance, learned to love his profession, cherish his loved ones, and hold firmly to his own values. He became a living testament to the fact that a person could overcome scandals, pressure, failure, and personal challenges to rebuild his life, maintain a stable career, and still keep admirable human qualities. Every project, every role, every workday reflected persistence, steadfastness, and the ability to face non-stop challenges, creating a mature, profound, and admirable Rob Lowe. With all those efforts, Rob Lowe proved that true success was not only fame or awards, but the ability to stand firm, continue loving his profession, and cherish the people beside him. Even when facing professional pressures, small scandals, or criticism from the media, The experiences, pressures, and challenges in his 50s to 60s had forged in him persistence and willpower, helping Rob Lowe not only rebuild his career, but also become a solid person who knew how to balance between work, family, and self-worth, fully prepared for the next major projects and upheavals in his life. Rob Lowe's current family is clear proof of his maturity, persistence, and ability to overcome life's harsh challenges. After many years struggling with youthful scandals, professional pressure, and periods of loneliness, Rob found stability in his marriage to Sheryl Berkoff, who had accompanied and supported him for many decades. The home they built was not only a safe refuge from the spotlight and work pressure, but also the foundation for Rob to nurture important values about affection, responsibility, and mutual care. No longer facing the loneliness and youthful pressures of the past, Rob now had a family he could be proud of, where every member was loved and cherished, and where core values such as respect, patience, and honesty were placed first. Raising his children became a major priority in Rob Lowe's life. Together with Sheryl, he devoted himself to caring for every detail in his children's lives, from study hours and playtime to building character and teaching life values. Every afternoon he taught his children life skills, gave them confidence, patience, and ways to face failure, lessons he himself had gone through in his challenging life. Every time he saw his children growing up in a loving environment, Rob felt deep happiness and compensation for the years he once felt lost, lonely, and under pressure in the past. This home became the place where Rob and Sheryl together nurtured love, where there was no room for judgment or stress, but only mutual understanding and support, creating a solid wall against pressures from the outside world. Family not only brought warmth and safety, but also helped Rob Lowe realize the true value of seemingly small things. Through the years of upheavals, he understood that success or fame would mean nothing without a companion, without knowing how to cherish sustainable and sincere relationships. Every family meal, every evening reading books with his children, or those simple but meaningful moments with Sheryl reminded Rob of the importance of family bonds and closeness. The family values he experienced and preserved now became a foundational part of how he faced work, film, or television projects, and how he maintained mental balance. Although his current emotions were warm and peaceful, Rob Lowe never forgot his challenging past. The days of youthful scandals, pressure, and failures still remained clear in his mind, reminding him of what he had been through and the truly important values in life. It was thanks to those painful experiences that Rob realized the home he had today did not come naturally, but was the result of persistent willpower, patience, and the ability to learn from the past. The memories of loneliness, being lost, and failure helped him cherish every minute with his family more, knowing how to love and protect the people he cared about. The upheavals in life had taught Rob Lowe that family was not only a place to return to, but also motivation and a source of energy for him to continue contributing to his career. When facing professional pressure, a dense schedule, or challenging projects, he always carried in his heart the image of his wife and children, reminding himself of the reason he had to persist, to be patient, and not give up. Family was also where he learned to forgive, to view and accept his own shortcomings, important lessons for maturing in relationships as well as in his profession. Rob Lowe's current stability and happiness came not only from success on screen, but also from his ability to build a sustainable family where love, respect, and patience were placed first. The painful years, past scandals and pressures became lessons that helped him raise his children thoughtfully, educate them about patience, responsibility, and gratitude, while forming in them the necessary values to face life's challenges. Through all the upheavals, Rob Lowe realized that true happiness could not be bought with fame or money, but was built from sincere relationships, care, and love given to those around him. He learned to balance between work and family, between career and personal life, between pressure and joy, so that every action reflected responsibility and his own values. Every moment with his family, whether simple or ordinary, became proof of the ability to overcome difficulties, learn from failure, and cherish what was most important in life. The current home, with wife Sheryl and their children, not only brought warmth and peace, but also symbolized the journey of overcoming upheavals, learning from the past, and maintaining the will to live. Each passing day, Rob Lowe lived with the awareness of cherishing his loved ones, knowing how to create a loving and mutually supportive environment, while maintaining a stable career, continuing to contribute and inspire audiences. The combination of warm, peaceful emotions with painful memories created character depth, helping Rob Lowe become an icon not only for his talent, but also for his willpower, endurance, and profound maturity, a role model for overcoming challenges, nurturing family, and cherishing core values in life. Rob Lowe's professional legacy is proof of the persistence, endurance, and ability to overcome challenges that few actors in Hollywood could maintain for more than 4 decades. His roles in television and film not only brought recognition from audiences and professionals, but also left a deep mark on his style, work ethic, and professional attitude that he always maintained. From his teenage roles in The Brat Pack to Sam Seaborn in The West Wing, Chris Traeger in Parks and Recreation, and Owen Strand in 9-1 Lone Star, Rob Lowe proved his versatility. From humorous and romantic to serious and political roles, with each character portrayed with authenticity, subtlety, and strong inner vitality. His influence also spread to younger generations of actors who looked at Rob's career journey to learn how to face pressure, build a sustainable career, and maintain human qualities in the harsh entertainment industry. However, behind those successes were significant professional upheavals that Rob Lowe had to face and learn from to mature. Many times he had to deal with canceled roles, failed projects, or criticism from the media and public opinion, all of which could make many other actors falter. Those moments, though no longer as severe as his youthful scandals, were still challenges to his spirit and ability to persist. He learned to turn failure into a lesson, each pressure into an opportunity to train himself, and each criticism considered to improve his skills and professional attitude. This process not only enhanced his acting ability, but also helped him maintain balance between fame, work pressure, and self-worth. The emotions throughout this period were a mix of sorrow and tribute to willpower. Sorrow came from the youthful years of being lost, from scandals and professional pressure, from the feeling of loneliness and despair that once overwhelmed his life. All those painful experiences had forged Rob Lowe into a strong and determined person who knew how to cherish every opportunity, learn from every failure, and hold himself steady in a harsh environment. The feeling of tribute appeared when looking back at what he had achieved: a stable career, memorable roles, influence on audiences, and inspiration for younger generations of actors. What is notable in Rob Lowe's legacy is not only the number of films or television programs he participated in, but also the way he maintained human qualities throughout his long journey. In an environment where fame, money, and pressure could turn people selfish or cruel, Rob still kept his sincerity, respect for colleagues, and honesty with himself. The professional upheavals, from failures to public pressure, did not break him but taught him how to stand firm, how to be patient, and how to cherish every opportunity. It was precisely this quality that made the difference, making audiences not only remember his roles, but also admire the person Rob Lowe. Throughout his career, Rob Lowe also never stopped looking for opportunities to inspire others. He often shared his experiences and lessons with young actors, guiding them on how to face failure, how to maintain self-discipline, and how to balance between work and personal life. These moments not only helped the younger generation learn, but also highlighted Rob Lowe's character value. He was not only an actor, but also a role model of willpower, persistence, and the ability to overcome adversity. Rob Lowe's professional tragedies, Though no longer as severe as his youthful scandals or past hedonistic lifestyle, still existed through daily challenges, media pressure, and the strict demands of the industry. He had to endure feelings of anxiety and stress when projects failed, when roles were not evaluated as desired, or when public opinion criticized his attitude or image. But instead of yielding, Rob Lowe turned all these difficulties into a foundation to train patience, endurance, and adaptability. These challenges further highlighted his willpower in overcoming hardship, making every success, small or large, even more valuable. An important part of Rob Lowe's legacy was the way he emphasized the inner person more than the outer glory. Audiences saw the fame, the roles, and the reputation, but Rob wanted them to understand the true value lay in the process of overcoming challenges, in the ability to learn from failure, and in human qualities. Thanks to this awareness, he inspired not only through the screen, but also through stories of willpower, determination, and persistence, reminding everyone that even when facing scandals, pressure, or failure, a person could still stand firm and grow. These years also showed that Rob Lowe had learned how to balance personal emotions and professional responsibility. He knew that success was not measured only by the number of projects or awards, but also by how he kept himself steady, protected important relationships, and did not let professional pressure erode his character values. Every successful project, every highly rated role brought pride, but alongside that was humility and the awareness that fame and money could not replace human value and sustainable relationships. Overall, Rob Lowe's professional legacy was a harmonious combination of professional success and personal maturity. He not only left memorable roles on screen, but also inspired younger generations of actors on how to maintain a long career, how to stand firm in the face of challenges, and how to preserve human qualities. The tragic experiences in the past, professional pressures, and failures had forged him into an icon not only of talent, but also of willpower, patience, and persistence in work. With all these elements, Rob Lowe proved that a successful artist was not only someone admired on screen, but also someone who knew how to overcome pain, learn from failure, and preserve his qualities throughout a long journey, creating a respectable legacy that was both tragic and deeply inspiring, where audiences saw not only glory but also the real, resilient, and sincere person behind the spotlight. Looking back on Rob Lowe's long journey, it is clear that the challenges, upheavals, and difficult times had shaped the man he is today, an icon of resilience and willpower in Hollywood. His youth was full of scandals and controversies, when personal videos and media curiosity dragged him into a whirlwind of public attention, shaking his on-screen image and nearly downgrading his career. In those years, Rob had to face enormous pressure, both from public opinion and from his own and his family's expectations, forcing him to fight every day to maintain his confidence, acting ability, and personal image. At the same time, alcohol addiction during his lost period caused him to lose control and pay the price for his mistakes. Learning to recognize the consequences of his actions and learning how to save himself. Not only scandals and addiction, Rob also had to go through career failures when roles were canceled, projects failed, or were not received as expected. Each time, loneliness, anxiety, and helplessness became heavier, reminding him that fame and talent were not enough to guarantee success. Pressure from the profession, from the media, and from audiences never lessened. Every criticism, every imperfect project, was an opportunity for Rob to test himself, evaluate his abilities, and train patience. These stressful years, though painful, helped him learn to face failure maturely, to learn, and not let obstacles defeat his will. His love life also brought Rob Lowe experiences full of challenges. The 7-year relationship with Kelly Brook, though deep and full of hope, ultimately could not be maintained because of his busy career and personal choices. This breakup forced Rob to face feelings of abandonment, loneliness, and deep disappointment, However, this experience simultaneously taught him an important lesson about balancing work and affection, about cherishing the person beside him and investing real time and emotion into the relationship. He realized that career and success, no matter how important, could not compensate for affection and closeness with loved ones, and that the ability to maintain sustainable relationships was an important part of life. All these difficulties, failures, and pressures became catalysts for Rob Lowe to train his willpower, endurance, and patience. The decision to quit drinking, reshape his career, learn from roles, face criticism and pressure, as well as spend time nurturing his family, all helped him form a solid inner character. Rob learned to save himself from temptations, learned to balance between important elements in life and career, and realized that maturity came not only from success, but also from overcoming adversity, from pain, failure, and times of being underestimated. In this process, Rob Lowe gradually proved that human value did not lie in glory or fame, but in the ability to face, learn, and overcome challenges. His persistence and willpower became valuable lessons for everyone pursuing a career in the entertainment industry. Even when facing scandals, pressure, failure, or loneliness, a person could still stand firm, preserve their qualities, and continue moving forward. His later successful roles, from The West Wing to Parks and Recreation and 911 Lone Star, not only proved his acting ability, but also served as testimony to Rob Lowe's will and determination. The emotions in this journey were a mix of tragedy and tribute. Tragedy came from the challenging youthful years, from loneliness, helplessness, and mental pressure, from failures and broken relationships. Tribute appeared when looking back at how he stood up, learned from failure, and rebuilt his life, maintaining a stable career and continuous development. Audiences and colleagues all saw in him a profound person who knew how to face difficulties and preserve his qualities in a constantly changing environment. The years when Rob Lowe overcame youthful scandals, alcohol addiction, professional pressure, and emotional upheavals forged a special character value: patience, endurance, self-rescue, and the ability to cherish those around him. Every difficulty, every challenge, every pain became a lesson for him to grow, learn to balance between work and personal life, and realize that true happiness came not only from fame or money, but also from sincere affection, from family, and from the ability to preserve human qualities. Through all these experiences, Rob Lowe became an icon not only of his career, but also of the ability to overcome adversity, learn from failure, and maintain character qualities. His story was proof that anyone could rise despite scandals, failures, or dark periods, and still keep faith, willpower, and courage to continue moving forward. It was this mix of tragedy and willpower that created the emotional power of the story, making audiences both feel sorrow and admiration, and deeply inspiring them about the human ability to stand up after every challenge. 62 years of Rob Lowe's life is a journey full of upheavals, challenges, and also brilliant moments under the Hollywood lights. But behind that glory is the story of a resilient person who dared to face pain and dared to stand up after failures that few could imagine. From his childhood days in Charlottesville, Virginia, where he grew up in a middle-class but pressure-filled family with a strict father and a caring but distant mother, Rob early felt loneliness and had to learn to protect himself. In his teenage years, when facing pressure from studying, family expectations, and a fiercely competitive environment, young Rob nurtured in his heart the desire to prove himself, the desire to become a person of value, while finding his passion for acting and art as an escape from the pressures and loneliness. When stepping into Hollywood, Rob Lowe quickly became famous thanks to the teen Brat Pack films, from The Outsiders to St. Cade, Elmo's Fire. But that youth also came with scandals, media controversies, and continuous criticism. That seemingly brilliant career was once shaken by personal upheavals, loneliness, and years of being lost, where alcohol and pressure nearly caused him to lose himself. Every failure, from canceled roles and failed projects to mental pressures and broken relationships, became valuable lessons, training his will, patience, and ability to save himself, helping Rob mature and develop an extraordinary character. The years of being lost, struggling with alcohol addiction, and challenges in love, especially the 7-year relationship with Kelly Brook, taught Rob Lowe about the value of patience, tolerance, and the ability to balance between work, career, and affection. Learning to cherish the person beside him, to love and take responsibility for loved ones while staying committed to his career, was a process that was not easy at all, but created the foundation for him to stand firm in every later upheaval and challenge. When entering his 50s to 60s, Rob Lowe had to face greater physical, mental, and professional pressures than ever. Changing health, a body no longer as vigorous as in youth, a dense filming schedule, pressure from the media and public opinion, along with the fear of relapse, all created a period full of challenges. But it was precisely in this period that Rob learned how to maintain a healthy lifestyle, train self-discipline, and continue focusing on work while spending time caring for his family and nurturing personal relationships. These years helped him strengthen his willpower, his ability to endure pressure, and create a mature image that balanced career and personal life. The current success of Rob Lowe, from his roles in The West Wing, Parks and Recreation, to 911 Lone Star and other film projects, not only reflects his talent, but also serves as proof of his willpower and persistence throughout more than 4 decades. These projects and roles brought stability to his career, while inspiring younger generations of actors, teaching them that success does not come from luck or appearance, but from the ability to face challenges, learn from failure, and preserve human qualities. Rob Lowe has proven that an artist can both maintain a long career and keep human values, know how to cherish loved ones, and learn how to truly love. Rob's current family, with wife Sheryl and their children, is living proof of his maturity and the lessons from previous challenges. This home not only brings warmth and peace, but also serves as motivation for Rob to continue contributing, learning, and developing himself. Every moment raising his children, every evening of sharing, every act of care and nurturing family affection becomes proof of his willpower, and ability to overcome suffering to create a fulfilling and meaningful life. The upheavals in his career, the youthful scandals, loneliness, romantic failures, and professional pressures have all forged the Rob Lowe of today. A strong, mature person who knows how to cherish what is important and never stops learning. He has become a role model for audiences on how to overcome adversity, how to face pain, and how to maintain qualities and character in every situation. Rob Lowe's 62-year story sends audiences a powerful message, even when going through suffering, failure, or challenges. A person can still stand firm, learn, and grow. Persistence, self-rescue, loving loved ones, and never giving up on dreams are the core values that Rob Lowe conveys through every step in his career and life. Those painful experiences were not useless. On the contrary, they created a profound, determined, and inspiring person, helping him become not only a Hollywood icon, but also living proof of the ability to overcome suffering, to continue living, contributing, and spreading positive values to everyone around him. In the light of the present, Rob Lowe is not only an admired actor on screen, but also an icon of willpower, of the ability to save himself and overcome adversity. The years of suffering and failure have become catalysts for him to cherish family, love his profession, maintain self-discipline, and develop his character. From the days of loneliness, being lost, and youthful pressure, Rob Lowe has matured, becoming a man of character who knows how to face challenges, knows how to cherish and love, and knows how to inspire audiences and the next generation through his own life and career. Rob Lowe's life story closes not with brilliant glory, but with the light of willpower, endurance, and the ability to overcome suffering, to continue living, to contribute, and to become a role model of a real person, not only on screen, but in life itself, where every difficulty, every challenge can turn into strength to move forward. Every audience member looking at that journey realizes that, even though life is full of upheavals and challenges, if one knows how to persist, to love, and not give up on dreams, a person can completely create value, happiness, and endurance in both career and personal life. Rob Lowe's life is living proof that willpower, persistence, and the ability to save oneself can overcome every challenge. But at the same time, it is also a story full of sorrow and regret. When looking back at the journey from childhood in Charlottesville, Virginia, where he grew up feeling lonely and under family pressure, to the years of rebellion, youthful scandals, alcohol addiction, and a career that nearly collapsed, not a few people cannot help feeling heartache for a boy who later became a Hollywood star, having to pay the price with loneliness, disappointment, and years of struggling with himself. Events like the scandal at the end of the 1980s, losing control in his youth, and the pressure to maintain his on-screen image all portray a life that was never smooth, making readers both heartbroken and admiring of Rob's will and determination to stand up. What is most admirable is the way Rob Lowe turned suffering and failure into strength. He learned how to quit drinking, rebuilt his career with the role of Sam Seaborn in The West Wing, continued to prove his acting ability in Parks and Recreation and 9-1 Lone Star, while building a sustainable family with Sheryl Berkoff and their children, raising his kids in a loving environment full of values. These details, from learning every scene, training skills, to balancing career and personal life, all reflect a Rob Lowe who is not only a star, but also a profound person who knows how to cherish the true value of life. The lesson for the American people from this story is, no matter what background, youth, or failure one has, willpower and determination to overcome adversity are the deciding factors in life. Knowing how to save oneself, learn from mistakes, cherish loved ones, and maintain a disciplined lifestyle is the path to achieving sustainable success and true happiness. Rob Lowe teaches us that no matter how much suffering or loneliness there is, one can still stand firm, continue contributing, and leave a legacy in both career and character. Please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bells so you do not miss inspiring stories about Rob Lowe's life and extraordinary willpower. Thank you for following. See you again in the next video to continue exploring the journey of overcoming challenges and honoring those who dare to stand up after suffering.